Hi, this is Shep Altshuler, publisher of TimeSharing Today. Welcome to this broadcast of TimeSharing Today Radio, featuring news and views of owners and industry professionals. We are being joined by Ken McKelvey, CEO of Defender Resorts, a professional timeshare management company based in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Today we will be discussing the history of Defender Resorts and why it's important for owners and timeshare owners associations to understand the benefits of utilizing the services of an experienced timeshare management company, especially for those older owner-controlled timeshare properties. Hi, Ken. Welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, Shep. Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Tell our listeners about the history of Defender Resorts. I'm curious about how it got its name, but maybe you could just talk a little bit about the background and how it was organized and brought into being.
Well, actually, we've been here for 35 years. We began in 1979. And we really began in Myrtle Beach by developing timeshare properties. The Lynx Golf and Racket Club and the Beach House Resort, both of which are here in Myrtle Beach. We developed as developers, actually, beginning in 1979, and we remained as the management company and remained the management company of those two resorts to this day. We then began managing properties whose developers had left, much like we had when we'd finished developing those two properties, and continued to grow from there. We manage more resorts as we expand corporately. We have added owner services managers, technology, human resources, and much more over those years. Our core principles is that we defend, and interestingly, you talked about how we get the word defend or defender. Our originator, a gentleman whose name was B.C. Avenett Jr. out of Columbia, South Carolina, had coined that term for various businesses that he was in at the time, because he really felt that that's what he was all about. He did a lot of industrial maintenance work and obviously development and management and so forth, and felt that the word defender meant something, that his purpose was to protect whatever it was he was about to do and was employed to do. And so our core principles right now in timeshare property management are to really understand the uniqueness of a property, its owners, and importantly, its board of directors. Then our task is to keep the board advised of best practices and our opinions as to what a particular resort might be able to do or not do.
Tell us a little bit about the geographical area that you service.
We operate from Massachusetts through the Caribbean and all points in between. Through the Carolinas and Maryland, Massachusetts, as I said, down into Florida, and then, of course, in the Caribbean, we were honored to manage property in St. Croix, Grand Cayman, and now St. Martin.
So you have a pretty broad range of climates and climate conditions, and out of that group and that geographical distribution, which is primarily Eastern-based down into the Caribbean, how many resorts are you presently managing?
Shep, we manage 23 resorts. There are 25 associations, but two of our resorts, there are two independent associations that operate in the same property. So it's 23 resorts, 25 associations.
Are these primarily what we call the legacy resorts that seem to go back a number of years? Is that really what constitutes the group that you serve?
Yes, they're all what the generic term that seems to be the new language, if you will, of our industry. All the properties we manage are legacy properties.
And they do go back over a period of time. And you say as far back as the 70s, is that correct?
Yes. We manage some properties that the actual buildings themselves are much older than that. We manage some properties, as I'm sure some others do, that were hotels before they were converted to timeshare. The Beach House Golf and Racket Club I mentioned earlier, which was sort of the genesis of our beginning, was actually constructed back in the 50s as a hotel, and we converted it to timeshare property beginning in the late 70s.
Yeah, and that's not so uncommon for these much older resorts to be conversions of some former use, such as a motel. Now, from your perspective, why is it important for HOAs to consider hiring an outside resource such as Defender?
I'll tell you, it's sort of like maintaining your car, getting a haircut, preparing your own taxes. All these things you can do yourself. But frankly, generally you find that it's better, and better in my mind is more efficient if you find a specialized professional that can do the work for you. A company that, like ours, a professional management company, it leaves the owners free to enjoy their vacations and to freedom and to own their vacation, if you will, but at the same time have a say in making the decisions about what that property is going to be and its future. It's sort of the best of both worlds. When you can leave the headaches, if you will, we don't call them headaches, we call them opportunities, but hopefully most owners would view things such as housekeeping, accounting, reserves, how do we market, how do we rental. Those to me would be headaches if that were not my business. But since they're my business, we find those to be opportunities. Because of the people we know and the systems we have and the length of time we've been in business, frankly, we're able to do it much more efficiently because of our training, because of the amount of money we spend in technology, because of our staffing. We're simply able to do it better and faster and more efficiently, and normally that translates into more economically than a self-managed property can do. It's not that they can't do it, but it's just a professional management company properly conducted can certainly be more efficient and economical.
We do know that one of the key issues facing resorts today is the growing delinquencies from aging owners and some of these fraudulent transfers. Is that an issue that Defender gets involved with in terms of keeping the flow of revenues coming into the resort?
Absolutely. We have to view, and I think all management companies do this to a large part, do it fairly successfully, hopefully. I don't know, but hopefully they do. A timeshare property management company is not like a normal condominium management company, nor is it like a hotel management company. It's uniquely different in that the owners are the boss. The owners elect owners to represent them, i.e. their board of directors, and the board of directors typically hires a manager. But that manager has to view a rental, a transfer company involvement, a housekeeping issue, the sale of the property that the association has or has taken back, all as being the same. It's almost like spokes on the same wheel. It's just as important to us how we are going about finding new owners as it is how we go about cleaning a unit, or how we go about doing a refurbishment, or how we go about being able to anticipate reserve needs. Those things are spokes in the same wheel of timeshare. They're all the same.
So we know that the owners are the engines through their contributions of maintenance fees that keep the wheels turning at a resort. So how do these services benefit the owners that may not be aware of the fact that there's a management company actively involved? How do you go about making sure that the owners are aware of what's going on at the resort? Do you play a role in the communications along with the HOA so that the owners are really in tune that that there's a professional team working on behalf of their interests?
Yes, most if not all of our resorts began with some sort of a weekly meeting where the general manager is required to attend. And that's the sharing of information of that unique property and what's going on in that unique property. But it's also an opportunity for that general manager to pass out his cards so that they know that it's a professional management company that's on site and is moving the property in the direction the board has instructed them. And that goes through newsletters that we produce based on the number of newsletters that a particular board wants us to issue for them. And some of those are now done by email, thank goodness, because postage is getting so expensive. We also build a website for each resort, and those websites we pay a lot of attention to. We have dedicated people in our IT department that work on those websites, and especially if the property is going through some renovation or something that's really different from this year to next, we really do put an awful lot of that information up on the website. Many of the websites, depending on what the boards want, will display the minutes of the meetings, the minutes of the annual meeting, the controlling documents, all these sort of things. And because technology is the way that it is today and our investment in technology, we're able to secure that data so that only owners can receive the information that a particular board wants them to receive. Now, we understand that we are the ones that understand and know how to make the bed, and we understand and know how to deal with these unscrupulous transfer companies, and we understand and know how to do a rental or a sale, but it's that information that's what we gather. They set policy, and then we operate that policy. But we really do affirm and believe that it is key and very, very important that there is a ever-present acknowledgement of what's going on in that particular property, because they're all so unique. If you want to keep your owners, then be certain that you do everything you can that your owners understand that they are owners and not just occupiers, but they are owners, and seek their buy-in of what you're doing.
Now, there are key issues out there facing resorts. We have a troubled economy. We have many owner-controlled resorts, from my personal experience through Timesharing Today and the Timeshare Board Members Association, that some of these resorts, you have not only aging owners, but the members of the board of directors could be aging as well, and right along with the resorts themselves. So what are the key issues that are facing the owner-controlled resort that should encourage them to explore professional management if they're not currently being professionally managed?
It's typical, and it is throughout the legacy resort population, I believe, certainly to the extent that I have seen them, either those that we've been honored to now help or those that we know something about. An aging owner base is defined typically as a decrease in maintenance fees and an increase in delinquencies. And normally that also, not all times, but normally that also is equated into less attention to the property. So what happens to you is that you get a physical FISCAL and a physical PHY SCAL deterioration of the property. So you have less funds, and your property is requiring more and more maintenance. And self-managed properties, unfortunately, I think, believe that because they're not being paid, i.e. they're running the resort, if you will, for free, that's the most economical thing for them to do. We find that I'll give an example. We were honored to take on a property about a year ago, just over a year ago, actually, because this is now February, so December would have been our first year. And they had the same concern. While they wanted us to be the property manager, they really didn't feel like they could afford us. At the end of the year, we did the December financials and then compared them to the year before. Their expenses, their overall total expenses, including our fees, we dropped their expenses by greater than 6% from the previous year, and the revenues went up 235%. It can make a big difference if you have a professional on your team.
The services of a professional management company such as Defender, how does that translate into maintenance fees and special assessments? And I think there might be this perception, and maybe a misconception, that if you have a professionally managed resort, it's automatically going to cost significantly more. And from what you say, that may not necessarily be the case. Is that true?
It's just not the case, and I have more than one example. It is just not. Granted, the first day that you're employed, certainly your expenses just immediately went up. But we normally find that there are savings in a lot of different obvious areas that you can begin to attack, and it generally will take you 6 months to a year to understand them and to affect change, so that those changes also translate into economic savings as well. But I can't remember a time when, once we became the manager and had a year or 2 years to understand the property, understand what they were paying for and what they should be paying for and what it was required to do the job, that we were not able to save them money. Now, the other thing that you have to look at, because there are several ways you can get to the bottom line. You got to get to the bottom line, and to us, the bottom line is the budget balances. I mean, are we going to be able to operate this resort at the end of the year and pay all of our bills without using next year's monies? And the object there is both in terms of decreasing expenses, but it's also about increasing other types of revenues. You know, a resort 15 years ago could advertise in a newspaper if they were self-managed, could advertise in a newspaper, or they could say, hey, we've been renting for years, and people just walking off the street and ask us if we've got any availability, and that's really how we do our rentals. Those days are long since come and gone. Newspapers don't work, magazines don't work, everything's on the internet. And just because you've got a website that you've built on the internet does not in any regard cause you to be justified in the thought that you're going to be able to get rentals, because you won't. You have to invest heavily in the key marketing of rentals on the internet. Because everybody today, with few exceptions, but almost everybody today, looks for their vacation experience, looks for their hotel, if you will, or looks for their timeshare, looks for their rental as they do their airline. Typically, it's on the internet. And so we have developed over the years a large presence on the internet. We use several TOT and relationships with all the various people that are out there that do this for a living, the Travelocities, Expedias, and so forth. And you have to be able to do immediate reservations. You cannot, the days of making a phone call, do you have availability? While that happens routinely and occasionally, it doesn't happen in the magnitude that you can really count on the revenue. And the second thing is in sales. Notice I didn't use the word resale. Our job, one of our jobs, is to sell inventory that belongs to the association. And I use the word sale because the association never owned it. This word resale has come about over the years in our industry, and I think it comes with a lot of bad connotations. We do resales, if you will, for owners, but our main emphasis is on what do we do about the inventory that is owned by an association, which the association normally did not want to own, but unfortunately they own it. So we have always been since 1991, we've had a very active sale program for the resorts of which we manage, and a resale program for those owners that want to dispose of their individual inventory. Those are the two key ingredients on additional revenue where you don't have to continue to increase an owner's fees, if you will, is in the ways of rentals and sales. There are others, and you're always looking for the others, the vending revenue, the different types of revenue you can have from functions and activities, and those help. The main thrust, however, has been and probably will be in the foreseeable future is the ability to sell an association's inventory and the ability to rent the association's inventory until you do sell it.
And that keeps the current dues-paying owners at par, so they feel that their investment is being maintained. And I know this just from talking to so many of our readers, that they still say no matter how you add up the costs, if you're traveling, particularly as a family, that you can't really beat both the experience of a condo-style vacation in the timeshare and actually the per diem cost. It just can't be beat anyplace. So the value of the experience and the actual economic value is still there. And we hear that over and over again. So I'm assuming you agree with that.
Absolutely. There is no question that timeshare is a bargain if you use it. It is a bargain if you use it. And I sort of, you can compare it to an automobile. If you go to a dealership and buy a brand new automobile and park it in your garage, save and except the one that you believe is going to be a unique automobile in 50 years and you just put it away for your great-grandchildren. But the normal person that goes and buys an automobile, if you put it in your garage and never drive it, it was a bad deal. But if you drive that vehicle, then you can then gauge the value proposition of the vehicle. Was it a good buy or not? Timeshare is an incredible bargain if you use it. And so the challenge is not for the new buyer. The challenge is not the long-term staying power of the new buyer once they are able to actually touch and feel the value proposition. The challenge for all of us is to get that new buyer, that Generation Xer, to touch and feel this value proposition because it exists. It is there. And quite frankly, and I'm being a little self-serving and jealous here, but I think in large part there are better jewels, if you will, or as good, if not better jewels, with the legacy resorts in terms of the value proposition or the bargain than they are at some of the newer properties. We have some beautiful properties that just allow folks to just have a wonderful vacation experience year after year at a tenth or 25% of what they pay if they try to do it in the other venues.
Well, that ties right into my next topic here, is that Timesharing Today has supported for years these smaller resorts, owner-controlled resorts, and we've called them now, under this new initiative that we have, Timeshare's Hidden Gems. Sometimes these resorts are under the radar. They may be in great destinations. They represent great opportunities for families to get together and experience all sorts of family activities. It's great for friends and other relatives. But they may not have the huge water parks and slides that you might see at some of the grander resorts, but they make great affordable vacations. So do you have any examples that you might want to provide that of a hidden gem to make great opportunities for ownership, great opportunities for rentals, and great opportunities for exchanging? And maybe you can just touch on one or two of those from the resorts that you're managing.
Let's see. I tell you, I'll give you a couple of examples of the hidden gem, if you will. Let's take one. Like we have one here in North Myrtle Beach, the Links Golf and Racket. It's quiet and reserved. It's not on the beach. It sits on a golf course, and it to me it really is a hidden gem. There's it's for people that don't like a lot of noise and crowds and so forth. It's tucked away, lots of wooded areas. Obviously, sitting around a golf course, there are lots of wooded areas. It has lakes and ponds, so you can fish. The units are huge. They have 3 bathrooms, almost 1,500 square feet. Just cookout areas, a great gymnasium, 2 swimming pools. There's a van that runs out of season, it runs about 4 or 5 times a day. In season, runs every 40 minutes. And because the Links enjoys an oceanfront, I guess you call it a cabana, where you can go and change clothes and enjoy the beach when you want to. But then just hop back on the van and go across the road to back to the Links. To me, that's a hidden gem. I mean, it's a great vacation experience, and you can have all the beach you want. Yet when you get ready to go home or go back to your resort, if you will, you go back to we've got an Olympic-sized pool and an indoor heated pool, huge clubhouse, great gymnasium that is completely outfitted with state-of-the-art equipment, and little ponds that you can enjoy and just look at the ducks and so forth, or fish. Everything you can think of in a vacation experience is just not on the beach, but it has everything you want, including the beach. And there's another one that I'd like to bring up, a Turtle Reef Club that's located down in Jensen Beach, Florida. And most people have not heard of Jensen Beach, Florida. It's very close. It's about 30 minutes north of West Palm Beach. So it's right on the East Coast in the quote-unquote hot part, if you will, that West Palm, Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale area. But it's just up the road slightly in Jensen Beach. It's a beautiful property, sits right on the beach, gorgeous, gorgeous beach all the time. But because it's one of those areas that is off the beaten path, if you will, it's not as discovered as the Boca Raton or Fort Lauderdale, but a great, great vacation experience without all the crowds, and yet you're right there in the heart of Florida.
We're seeing more articles in Timesharing Today of family reunions and where actual groups are going, and some of these resorts make ideal destinations for that. One, just from the ability for families to commune with each other and maybe settle down for some less hectic activities, but a lot of these resorts offer a little bit bigger unit choices as well. So, and you had mentioned that before, so definitely something that people should consider.
Yeah, not only that, but when you're taking several families in a reunion, I mean, isn't it awful nice to be able to I've done this with my family. I have 4 children, and we have occasionally been able to go on vacation together, which means I get to see most of my grandchildren. and now some of my great-grandchildren. And to be able to take 3 or 4 units and my wife will cook breakfast this morning, and everybody come to our unit. We'll all have breakfast because it's a full kitchen and a big table. And at lunchtime, we may eat in my young son's unit with his wife. The dinner time, we may eat in my other son's unit with his wife and my grandkids. All the units have big kitchens and great places to sit and enjoy each other. So it really is almost like being at home, yet you're on vacation and you're in a different area, in a different environment. That's what vacations are about. That's what makes memories. I have some of those. I've been honored to do some exchanging in some other properties where I've been able to do that, and those memories I'll always safeguard.
That's absolutely true, and I say that sometimes these major attractions are really distractions, but at some of these legacy resorts, you can get back to focusing on the family experience, and I think that's of utmost importance in these days. So, Ken,
absolutely.
If any of our listeners or any of our HOAs have an interest in getting in touch with Defender Resorts, how do they go about doing that? We know you advertise in every issue of Timesharing Today. That's one way, but why don't you just tell them a little bit about the contact information?
Defender Resorts is one word, DEFENDERRESORTS, DefenderResorts.com. We're on the web 24/7, 365. You can phone us at 843-449-6500, and my extension is 222. And my cell is 843-222-3030. Easy to remember, and I'm willing to speak to anyone about anything and all things having to do about timeshare. I love the business, and it has been incredibly blessed. I have been incredibly blessed to be in it all these years.
And I want to thank you for all the support that you've lent the Timeshare Board Members Association, your work with the Resort Owners Coalition at ARDA, and also with Timesharing Today. So thank you, and I appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Shep.
And this concludes today's broadcast of Timesharing Today Radio. If you would like to comment on today's broadcast or suggest a topic for a future broadcast, please email staff@tstoday.com. Until next time,